Chapter 1. The Entrepreneur's Office. Alex sat at his desk in a modern office, surrounded by piles of documents and plans for the future. He was a successful entrepreneur, always busy and focused, but his eyes revealed the weariness from constant pressure. At that moment, the office door quietly opened, and Olga, his wife, a graceful and refined woman whose beauty and calm reminded him that life could be different, entered the room. "Olga, you're always on time," Alex said, glancing up from his papers with a smile. Olga returned his smile softly and placed a freshly brewed cup of coffee on the table. "You forgot to have lunch again," she noted gently, reminding him that taking care of himself was just as important as business matters. "There's no time," Alex replied with a shrug. "The deal is at its final stage, and the investors demand more guarantees."
Olga sat across from him, her gaze full of warmth and support. "You always take everything on yourself. But you do have a team," she said quietly, reminding him that trust in others was the key to success. Alex pondered her words, and for the first time that day, he felt the pressure slowly recede. Chapter 2. Breakfast and Reflections. The next day, Alex woke up earlier than usual and lay in bed for a long time, reflecting on Olga's words, trusting others. He realized that despite his achievements, he often took on more than he should. At breakfast, as Olga poured him coffee, he softly confessed, "I realize that if I continue to work alone, I'll eventually burn out." Olga smiled gently, her voice confident. "Sometimes you need to let others help. We are a team, and that is our strength." These words warmed his heart, and he decided to give change a chance. Chapter 3. The Investor's Test. The following morning, as soon as Alex stepped into the office, an anxious assistant met him. "Please come to the conference room immediately. There's a problem with the contract." In the conference room, two investors were already waiting, their gazes cold and resolute. "Alex," one of them began, "we have reconsidered the terms. We need additional guarantees." Alex tried to explain, "But we already discussed everything." The investors exchanged glances. "If by tomorrow we don't see a clear plan to reduce the risks, we will be forced to withdraw from the deal." Alex's heart raced. Everything he had built was hanging by a thread. He gathered his team and held a meeting where each participant offered a solution. Despite his inner turmoil, he decided to trust his colleagues and give them the opportunity to prove themselves. That evening, after a hard day of negotiations, Alex returned home, where Olga was already waiting for him. Her caring gaze and warm voice brought him solace. That night, they discussed how important it was to share responsibility and support each other during difficult times. Chapter 4. The Unexpected News. A few days later, on an ordinary evening as Alex was coming home from work, he noticed Olga sitting in the living room holding an envelope. Her face was a mixture of anxiety and hesitation. "Is everything all right?" Alex asked as he removed his jacket. Olga took a deep breath and handed him the envelope. "It's from the clinic." Alex felt a rising unease. He knew that Olga had been visiting the doctor lately, but she had never shared the details with him. With a pounding heart, he asked, "What does it say?" Olga whispered softly, "Alex, I'm pregnant." The world froze. Thoughts swirled in Alex's mind. How could this be? At the same time, a feeling of joy stirred in his soul. But soon after the joyful confusion, fate was about to deliver another blow. Chapter 5. Conflict and Decision. Several weeks passed. As Olga's pregnancy progressed, she transformed, radiating happiness, while Alex made an effort to spend more time at home, reading books about parenthood and learning how to properly support his wife. But the happiness proved fleeting. One day, while choosing a crib, Alex noticed that Olga seemed strangely nervous. "Is everything all right?" he asked, noticing her tension. Olga averted her gaze and finally said in a quiet voice, "Alex, we need to talk." A few days later, after another examination, Olga approached Alex with her head bowed. "Alex, I must confess," she began, her voice trembling. Alex felt his heart beat faster. "What happened?" With a heavy voice, she revealed, "The child is not yours." Those words struck him like lightning. Alex could hardly believe his ears. Anger, pain, and betrayal swirled within him. He asked who the father was and heard that it had happened during a time when he was completely absorbed in work and she felt alone. "You cheated on me?" he asked, his voice choked with pain. Olga, tears streaming down her cheeks, silently nodded. After that conversation, Alex made a painful decision. He said, "I'm leaving. But if this child is born, I will provide everything he needs. I won't be able to love him, but I won't let him suffer because of your mistake." With these words he left, leaving Olga in despair. Chapter 6. A New Life. Alex left the city. He wasn't trying to erase the past, but rather to start anew, leaving the pain behind. He found a small house by the ocean where he could recover and rethink his life. His work continued remotely, and he learned to trust his team by letting go of the need for complete control. A few months later, he received a letter. There was no sender's name, but he immediately knew it was from Olga. In the letter, she wrote, "Alex, a boy was born. I named him Daniil. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know. Forgive me once again. Oh." This letter stirred long-forgotten feelings within him. He realized that a part of his soul was still connected to the past, with Olga, with the child, and despite the pain, he felt compelled to know how Daniil was doing. Chapter 7. Rebirth and Restored Memory. A few weeks later, Alex decided to arrange a meeting. He approached the familiar apartment where Olga lived and rang the doorbell. The door opened, and there stood Olga with a small boy in her arms. "May I come in?" he asked softly. Olga hesitantly stepped aside, allowing him to enter. The little boy, his eyes wide with wonder, quietly said, "Daddy?" Those words awakened in Alex a feeling he thought he had lost forever. Despite the pain of the past tearing at his heart, he felt that he must try to be part of this life. Thus began a new chapter. Alex started to help Olga and care for Daniil, finding comfort and support in these family moments. He didn't try to reclaim the past, but strove instead to build a future free of resentment. Chapter 8. Catastrophe and Oblivion. One day, after a long day, Alex was driving home. He was in the car, thinking that tomorrow he would tell Olga he wanted to start afresh, but fate had another blow in store. On a rainy night, when the sky was overcast, an accident occurred on the road. A sudden glare of headlights, screeching brakes, and then darkness. When Alex opened his eyes, he found himself in a hospital. A white ceiling, the smell of antiseptic, and dim light. Next to his bed sat a woman. Her face was familiar, yet Alex remembered nothing. He tried to focus, to understand what was happening. "Alex," she whispered. "It's me, Olga, your wife." In Olga's eyes there was sorrow. Alex looked at her, feeling as if his memory was shrouded in a thick fog. He murmured, "I don't remember." Olga took his hand and continued sadly. "The doctors say your memory may return with time, but there's one more thing. We have a son. His name is Daniil." Those words touched his heart deeply, evoking warm feelings despite the emptiness in his memory. He looked at Olga, seeing in her everything he once loved, even if he couldn't recall it. And then, slowly, a new life began to emerge through the darkness. Chapter 9. A New Family and a Forgotten Nightmare. Several months passed, and Alex gradually adapted to his new life. He no longer tried to reconstruct the past, embracing each new day as a chance to start over. Daniil became a true treasure to him, filling his life with joy. Every time the boy called him Daddy, warmth spread through Alex's heart. One night, 3 months after his discharge, Alex awoke from a strange dream. He sat up in bed, his heart pounding furiously and cold sweat beading on his forehead. He had dreamed a nightmare, blurred images, screams, and a voice saying, "Alex, the child is not yours." These words echoed in his mind. He tried to grasp the meaning of the dream, to understand its significance. But after 5 minutes, the haunting images dissolved like mist, leaving only a slight sense of unease. When he looked again at Olga, sleeping peacefully beside him, everything appeared calm and serene. Alex convinced himself that it was just a dream, and that the new life he was building was all that truly mattered. The past remained behind, forgotten like those terrifying images that had briefly disturbed him. Yet, even though a shadow of the past might still lurk somewhere, Alex knew. His present was defined by family, love, and the chance to start anew.